Welcome to the 2020 Walnut Creek Community Forum on Homelessness, sponsored by the Walnut Creek Homeless Community Task Force. I am Lisa Andrews, co-chair of the task force along with Jenny Chiata, and I'm also chair of the Education Committee and a Walnut Creek resident. I thank you for being here this evening. Tonight's forum is designed to give the community members the opportunity to learn about the efforts being made by the county and the City of Walnut Creek to address homelessness. The goal is to help people understand what partnerships and resources are available and who to contact when you either need help because you are facing homelessness or would like information about the issues of homelessness in Walnut Creek. The Walnut Creek Homeless Community Task Force was established in 2013. It was started by the police department and community members. I understand it was a very small group when it started, and it's evolved quite a bit. The mission of the task force is to research and identify best promising and emerging practices for short-term and long-term solutions to the causes of homelessness, to present information and recommendations for program implementation to Walnut Creek City staff and City Council, and to work collaboratively with Walnut Creek City staff and City Council, as well as community organizations and businesses, to break down obstacles of implementation and be involved in putting into place respectful and compassionate solutions. The greatest achievement of the task force has been and continues to be bringing together resources from the county, the city, law enforcement, homeless service agencies, community service agencies, faith communities, and residents. Homelessness will never completely end, so our efforts are to look at how we proactively help everyone work together in our community. So I would like to just ask everybody in our audience that has participated in the task force, or participates now or has participated in the past 7 years, to just stand up to give you a thank you for all those. See how many people in our community are part of this. Thank you. So you should have all received note cards when you came in. Those are for our panelists, which is going to be the second half of the evening. We're going to have speakers first, so you can write your questions down. We're going to collect those after the speakers, and we'll have about 50 minutes of Q&A. Tonight's speakers and panelists will discuss facts about homelessness, causes of homelessness, problems experienced by the homeless and the community, and possible paths and solutions to issues that result from homelessness in our neighborhoods. During the Q&A, panelists will take questions from you moderated through Q&A cards that you obtained when you signed in. So those are what the cards are for. I'm now going to introduce our presenters tonight. We have 4 presenters tonight. Our first presenter is Jamie. I'll introduce them all, and then our first presenter will come up. So our first presenter this evening is Jamie Jeanette with Health, Housing, and Homeless Services with Contra Costa Health Services. Our next 2 presenters will present together. Officer Nicole Rosenbush, School Resource Officer with the Walnut Creek Police Department, and David Granzato, Associate Principal of Las Lomas High School. And our third presenter tonight is Victoria Johnson with Creek Kids Care, which is one neighborhood's response to homelessness, which was established in 2004. And our moderator tonight is John Haithcock. He's in the back. Thank you, John, for moderating, which we will do later during the Q&A panel. So we will hand it over to Jamie now.
Can you hear me? All right. I'm Jamie Jeanette. I'm with Health, Housing, and Homeless Services for the county, otherwise known as the County Homeless Program. And I just wanted to kick things off by painting sort of the big picture of a little bit about what our system of care looks like and a little bit of data. I'm not going to bury you with numbers, but just so you kind of have a picture of the grand scheme of things. So there's a lot of information on here, but the top is really big picture, sort of county-wide. So one of the things that we know, and one of the real drivers for homelessness, not just in Contra Costa, the whole Bay Area, and actually the whole West Coast, is that the cost of housing keeps skyrocketing and wages are not increasing commensurately. So that gap just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So right now, for our county, you would need to earn essentially 4 times the minimum wage just to afford a pretty basic unit in our county. And one of the things that's happened is that our production of affordable units has really dropped off. When redevelopment went away a number of years ago, that really kind of stalled out production. So we have more and more people that need more affordable units, and there just really aren't the units to match that. One of the fastest growing populations that we see are older adults, and that is in part because older adults tend to have a fairly fixed income. So when rents are going up $200 a month, older folks don't really necessarily have the capacity to just like go out and get another job or bring in more income. So that's a population that we're seeing ever increasing in our system of care. Folks showing up at the shelter for the first time at 80 years old, have never been homeless, and they just have gotten priced out of where they live. So we do something that's actually, we're about to do it in a couple of weeks, called the point in time count. So every year, communities around the country do this thing called the point in time count, where we take a snapshot of one night in time to look and see who we can identify that's homeless. So what I will say is that is not an accurate picture of the real magnitude, but it's something that every community does so you can compare apples to apples. So for us last year, we identified about 2,300 people that were experiencing homelessness in our county. And there's some data later on. We actually track data for everybody that's accessed services throughout the year, and the real number is more like 7,000 folks a year are accessing services, but on any given night, about 2,300. We see folks living outside. Right? We see people everywhere that are living outside, and part of that is because in our community and many communities in the Bay Area, we don't have enough shelter. We have 28% of the capacity we need for single adults seeking shelter. For families, it looks a little better, families with children, but for single adults, if you have 100 people, only 28 of those people are going to get into shelter. There's no other place for them to go. And so in our 2019 point in time count, we identified 99 people that were experiencing homelessness in Walnut Creek. That just is who we found, so there may be more. Has anybody tried to, maybe 4+ years ago, had anybody ever tried to connect somebody to homeless services in the county? Anybody? And many people found it very complicated. Everybody had to kind of keep track of all the individual providers. There's now 3 ways that people can connect in with services. There's flyers on the side table, and there's also little business cards that explain where people can access services. So you can call 211 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and start to get connected in with services. People can walk into a care center. So Trinity Center is one of our care centers. So it's a brick and mortar site where people can just walk in and start to get connected to services and showers and food and case management and all that. And then the third is CORE, which is our mobile outreach teams. And so Michael Fisher is here from our CORE outreach teams, and we now have 12 teams with more coming on. And Walnut Creek sponsors a team with Concord, shared team that is just covering those 2 cities and helping people connect in with services. This is just a quick snapshot of the kinds of things that are available. So for some folks, their homelessness can be prevented with just a little bit of help. For some folks, they've already become homeless, but maybe we can help them avoid going into our shelter system. Crisis services, so that includes things like shelter, and crisis housing. Crisis services is also like care centers, showers, food, that kind of thing. Housing services, so helping people get into housing, and then there are housing programs, especially for folks that have higher needs that need support services. So that was like super fast blitz. I just wanted to kind of paint the landscape, and with that, I will turn it over to the next speaker.
Good evening. I'm Nicole Rosenbush with the Walnut Creek Police Department. Excuse me. This is Dave Granzato. He's associate principal over at Los Lomas High School. Like I said, I'm the school resource officer, and I'm assigned to Los Lomas High School. And during the course of our school year, if there is an unsheltered or a homeless student identified, Mr. Granzato meets with them and handles all the resources associated with that. So he's going to speak a little about that.
Hi. As she mentioned, I'm the assistant principal at Las Lomas. I'm actually the, our district has designated a point person at each high school to be the point person for homeless youth as sort of the face, essentially, so that they don't have to interact with multiple people and have difficult conversations. They can just come to me. So I've been there for the last 4 years, and every year that I've been there, we've had at least 1 or 2 students who we've identified as homeless or unsheltered. I think our criteria may differ slightly. Any student who is without stable housing night to night qualifies as someone as a homeless or foster youth in our standards. So that includes students who maybe have run away from home, or students who are with a guardian, but they are not in their house. They're living in another family's residence, and maybe even students living in cars. These are all students who would qualify under. There's a federal act called the McKinney-Vento Act, and if students qualify under the McKinney-Vento Act, it allows them to access a whole range of services from the school. We're very lucky that our schools in Walnut Creek are very good schools, so they're schools that people want to go to. So there are students who try very hard to live in our area or to live in the housing of relatives in our area so that they can access our services. If we identify them as McKinney-Vento, they are allowed. There's a whole list of services that they qualify for, but the basic idea is so that there is not any stigmatization based on their financial circumstances, their residential circumstances. So they have access to every one of the privileges that all the other students have. Obviously, that includes things like lunch. I mean, free lunch is a sort of standard. But also, if a student is qualified under the McKinney-Vento Act, they get access to an ASB card, which is a associated student body. It allows them to go to all the dances, all the football games without cost. It allows the student to get a yearbook. And our district, even though transportation isn't something that we normally do, if a student is qualified under McKinney-Vento, the district will pay for transportation. So it really is. It basically allows us to give them whatever they need to be successful in school. The catch is we have no way of identifying these students unless they self-identify. So it is very important that the knowledge be put out there that students need to come and talk to whatever adult they feel most comfortable with. Because as long as we know and can fill out the forms and they can meet with me and it takes 5 minutes, we can give them access to all the things that the other students already have access to. So I guess if there was one thing that I would want to communicate is that if you know of students who are in these circumstances, or if you know students without stable housing night to night, please tell them to utilize our resources. Please, any adult on campus, they can come and talk to and say, hey, I need to fill out a McKinney-Vento form, and we can give them anything that the other students get access to. And that's really what we had to share with you guys tonight. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Victoria Johnson, and I'm with a local nonprofit called Creek Kids Care. If I could boil it down for you, the number one thing that our goal is to teach children the value of compassion and understanding life outside of what their day-to-day life looks like. And we do that in a lot of different ways. One of the things that we do is we create art. So the kids will come in to do an art party with me, And the art is then turned into stationery, and the stationery is sold to support local causes, especially Trinity Center. So we partner with Trinity Center on a lot of different things. Creek Kids was started in 2004, and it was started by a local mom whose kids, when she would drive them to preschool every day, they used to see the same person every day. And it was clear that he needed help, and they were concerned about him. And they said, Mom, what do we do? How can we help? And so she found an organization in Walnut Creek that was helping out, and it was the predecessor to Trinity Center. And so that's where the art came in, because she wanted the kids to have an opportunity to do something that they felt like they were contributing. And the artwork really, when we talk to the kids about the artwork, it's an act of kindness, so that their artwork is going not home to them to be put up on their refrigerator, but home to us to turn it into stationery. A couple of things that we work with Trinity Center hand in hand on. One of my favorite projects is the Angel Project. And the Angel Project starts in November, and our Creek kids, which are anywhere from preschool to high school, and we have a group at Las Lomas, so we should talk. And so the kids come in and they have a wish list and they have a clipboard and they sit side by side with Trinity Center members and they go through this checklist. Hi, what is your name? How old are you? What are your needs? And they ask, do you need socks? Do you need underwear? Do you need a hat? Do you need a sleeping bag? What are the things that you need that we can maybe help? And every year we take those wish lists and we find folks in the community to fulfill the wish lists. And then we have a big party, which is a lot of fun. And the gifts come in and we distribute them, and it's my favorite day of the year. But so that's something that we feel really good about. And for us, its tangibility is really allowing the kids to understand what they're doing, why they're doing it, and who it helps. So when the Trinity Center overnight shelter started, we stepped up and bought the sleeping mats, because then that was something that the kids would understand. Okay, I'm now helping somebody be a little bit more comfortable. So so we work with kids of all ages. My husband and I have 3 kids who are all high schoolers now, and one of the things that we do is that they've been coming to Trinity Center since they were wee little ones. And it's always fun because you see some of the Trinity Center members who've known them for a long time who like, oh my gosh, you've grown. And so you have that connection. And that's really what Creek Kids is all about, is making that connection and allowing kids to really have a say in what's going on in their community and try to help. So, okay.
We have about an hour for questions from the panelists. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our panelists at this time. So our speakers will also be taking questions, so you can ask any of the speakers questions. Our panelists this evening are Fatima Matal Sol from Alcohol and Other Drug Services with Contra Costa Health Services, Michael Fisher with the CORE team, Coordinated Outreach Referral Engagement, also Contra Costa Health Services, Natalie Demijan, Mental Health Program Supervisor with the Mobile Crisis Response Team, Contra Costa Health Services. We have Deputy Yen and Lieutenant Sliger. I hope I said that right. Awesome. With the Contra Costa County Sheriff, Margot Ernst, Housing Program Manager with the City of Walnut Creek, which is here, and Lieutenant Connolly, Walnut Creek Police Department, and Donna Colombo and Marjolaine Das with Trinity Center. And also we have Mayor of Walnut Creek, Mayor Haskell. Sorry about that. Yes. All right, so I'm going to hand it over to John. Do you want to use this, or did you want to? Okay. Sorry.
Good evening, everybody. What I will try to do is go through these cards and kind of categorize and try to spread the information out accordingly. panelists, the only thing I would ask of you is if you find something that maybe hasn't been addressed and you feel you would like to address, please feel free to kind of raise your hand and say, I have a point on something, so that it doesn't get missed. So I will start with the first card that I was handed that says Homeless Task Force is doing a great job, thank you. So that's a good start for tonight. And I have a few of these cards basically that say, how can I help combat homelessness in the community, volunteer, donate, etc. And I have 2 or 3 cards on that. So is there somebody or a few of you that would like to address maybe some of the assistance that could be used?
Is this on? Okay, great. Lieutenant Sean Conley with Walnut Creek Police. Been on the Homeless Task Force for a very long time, multiple years. We are always looking for community members to come in to volunteer their time and help out on the task force. Essentially, it is a community-based task force. We do address homelessness from a community perspective. And in order to get that proper perspective, we need community members to attend. And it's getting better. We started out with a very small group with Donna, myself, and a few other nonprofit organizations, and community members have started to come in. We also have members of the city council that come in and sit on the task force, talk about issues surrounding homelessness. And then we also talk about strategic plans and ways to implement services and what's needed in our community. Our community is so unique that there are things in our community that only Walnut Creek has to deal with. And you being community members are the eyes and ears out there. I mean, I live here in Walnut Creek as well. I see what's going on. But to get that perspective is priceless, and we need that. So if you're looking for a way to contribute, this would be the best way to contribute. And then part of the task force is once we identify an issue or a problem that's facing the community, then we ask for community member support and volunteers to help out, sort of champion an effort to find resolutions or find maybe a small win that we could address. Maybe it's funding that we're looking for. Maybe it's just reaching out to a service that you may be familiar with. If you've got a great network system that you work with, that would be the best place to start for a location or money or hands, just to kind of help move this problem along. So I would start there. I know it's a long-winded answer to this question, but we talked about this at the last forum a couple of years ago, and our participation in the task force has grown, which is great, and we hope that that will happen tonight as well. So we take it from there. And if you need information on how to get involved with the community task force, Lisa Andrews is the chairperson, is the best person to work with. So thank you for your time.
So I'm Donna Colombo, Trinity Center, and Marjolaine is, actually it's not pronounced correctly, is it? It's Marjolaine. Yes. Yes, okay. So helping out in the community, there are many, many ways. I'd like to give a shout out to what Jamie talked about, which is the point in time count. So if you want to come on out, what is the date?
It'll be the 23rd. There's I have cards on the table. If you're interested in volunteering, email me and I'll get you the information.
So that's an easy thing to do. You go around and say, okay, I saw 5 people today. No, there's much more involved than that, but that's an easy thing, one-day thing to do. You can also contact us at Trinity Center. There are many, many things. We have a day program. We have an evening program, which is an overnight shelter. We have a safe parking program. And Marjolaine is our associate director, and she works with a lot of the volunteers in our center, people who actually want to be able to help our clients move beyond homelessness. We also have general operations, and that takes a lot of work too. We have to set up, clean up, prepare breakfast, lunch, clean the showers and the laundry, and so there's a lot of work to running a shelter, day shelter. And so in the evening program, we need a lot of cooks. If you like to cook, we want to hear from you. You can go to our website, trinitycenterwc.org, and there's a volunteer page on there. And there's many, many other organizations that you can volunteer. There's lots of ways you can help. Thinking out of the box is important, bringing ideas, being willing to say, I have an idea and I want to help launch it. Lots of ways to help.
I just wanted to add real quickly, so we at the county are, it's almost ready. We have a document that has listings of all the homeless service agencies in the county and their contact information for volunteer opportunities. And I also wanted to add, there's a council on homelessness that is sort of the strategic board for the county to think about homelessness. And there are community member seats. I think that one of the community seats will open up at the end of this year. But anybody's welcome to attend those meetings. They're open to the public. You can get informed about what's going on, but you can also bring questions, concerns, and information to that body.
Can you provide the demographics of the homeless community in Walnut Creek, men, women, age, if there's youth or children?
I can, but not off the top of my head. But we do at the county, on our county website, which is cchealth.org/H3, and it's actually on the bottom of our flyers as well. We have a number of different reports, including an annual report that has basically every piece of information you'd like to know about people experiencing homelessness in our county, by demographic, where in the county people were found. There's lots and lots of data. We also look at sort of race, ethnicity, and sort of what the demographic distributions are. So all of that information is available. I just didn't want to snow you with numbers tonight, but that is available. I just don't have it on here. Oh.
It's a very colorful page.
Yes. So that's I think our point in time count. Yes. Oh, good. So this is our point in time count snapshot, which is sort of a snapshot on one night in time. So there's some data here, but we actually have the full annual report. Has data from the entire year of all the data collected by all the service providers. So that's also available, just not at this moment.
Where are the Walnut Creek homeless located?
So we work closely with the HOP officers with the City of Walnut Creek. They have some homeless outreach officers that we work in collaboration with. But as you know, homeless are they're mobile. They're moving all around, right? During the day, we could potentially find them at Trinity Center. We could find them at a local Starbucks. We could find them anywhere, really. But there's not really a location that I could give you of where all the homeless are. They're homeless are everywhere. And a lot of people are just one paycheck away from becoming homeless. So we're seeing people in parks and in public settings, sometimes in front of businesses. We see them everywhere, really. Everywhere there's people, cars, RVs. Yeah, we see them all over the place.
Is the county seeing any additional benefits, money, other resources coming in with this governor? I'm sorry.
Can I just interject a bit on the
You're
last?
a lieutenant. You can do whatever you want.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Thank you, John. Yeah, so just being a part of the police department and working with homelessness in Walnut Creek, gosh, it's grown. And in the last 10 years, you know, you ask about demographics of homelessness, and there's individuals on the street that you pass that are homeless and you would never know it. And then there's individuals that you pass on the street and it's obvious that they're homeless. So the demographic that we see in Walnut Creek increasing is, unfortunately, those senior citizens, much like what Jamie Jeanette had spoke to earlier. We have long-time homeless here in Walnut Creek. They've been homeless ever since I've been a police officer, 23, 24 years in Walnut Creek. And in the beginning, our homeless population was very much centralized in the downtown area. We could find them underneath overpasses. We could find them in our city parks. We could find them out in front of Trader Joe's. We could find them in and around Kaiser. But now somewhere it was between 17 and 24 individuals in Walnut Creek some years ago, and now we're up in the 99s and hundreds and possibly more. So what that does is it spreads it out throughout our community. So now we're seeing it in the far reaches of the boundaries of Walnut Creek now, in the north end, the east end, west and south end, out and towards Northgate and up in other areas. But what that allows us to do is to identify those areas And then we send our homeless outreach program officers out there, Officer Silva and Clemente out there to either provide enforcement if there's a laws being broken, or we provide services if there's quality of life issues. And it allows our officers, these two officers, to really dive into the needs of the particular individual, what services they need, if they're senior citizens, if they're alcohol and drug abuse, if there's anything like that that they need. It may be just as simple as getting a driver's license or a copy of a birth certificate so they could get a social security card. You know, it's a small thing, but it's big in their eyes. So if we could identify the services they need, point them in the right direction, and get them the services they deserve, then it's a good thing. But it is growing in Walnut Creek. We're managing it. It was said before earlier that maybe this is a program that we can't solve. There's just not enough housing in our area. It's a very expensive area to live. We're blessed to live here. But when it comes time when someone's losing their housing because they can't afford to stay there, then it's unfortunate. So can we solve it? I hope so. Can we manage it? Yes, we can manage it, absolutely. And what we've done in the last 10 years is just leaps and bounds of where we were 10 years ago. So as you can see on the panel up here, the multidisciplinary approach that we have towards homelessness now is not something that we had some years ago. And they were out there, but they weren't working in collaboration. And now there's much more of a collaborative effort towards homelessness. And that is where we're seeing a lot of success stories come out of CORE and through the county and through the City of Walnut Creek and through our HOP officers as well, Officer Silva. They're in the back there. I can't commend them enough for the work that they've been doing in the last couple of months. They've really made a mark. So that's it. Sorry.
No apology necessary. I'm going to get demoted tomorrow, just so you know. Here's a couple questions really based on the government and how they're helping us, whether it is at the state level with Governor Newsom targeting homelessness as a priority, or another member of our community mentioning the early Reagan administration, many mentally ill were dropped from programs. And are we seeing any improvement in that or any help in those areas?
That's a great question. So I've been working in the field of homelessness for about 5 years, and just in those 5 years, I've seen some really big changes that includes sort of what you referenced about much stronger collaboration. And the thing that struck me that you said was, are we going to solve it? And the thing that I've come to over the last 5 years in talking to all different sorts of people, whether it's elected officials, city staff, community members, faith community, I think everybody's finally understanding that no one entity is going to be able to solve this. So the feds can't fix it, the state can't fix it, the city can't fix it, the county can't fix it, faith community can't handle it all on their own, community members can't do it all on their own. It is requiring collaboration. And what we're finally starting to see is funding coming in from other sources and real dedication to funding that's really essential. So, for example, with Governor Newsom, one of the things that just happened in this past year, in addition to a couple of laws that got passed that are going to make hopefully a huge difference. So one of them was a cap on the amount that somebody's rent can be increased. That's huge because we hear of people whose rents are doubled overnight. There's no way somebody's going to be able to make that up. So there's some renter protections in place, but also about $2 billion that's being committed from the state specifically to address housing and homelessness. And so what that looks like on the ground is that there's some big block grants that are coming through. The big challenge that we're facing on the ground is a lot of that funding is one-time funding. So it's very, very helpful to get a big influx of funding, but it's very hard to figure out how to spend it if you aren't going to be able to have a program that's funded ongoing. So you could use a bunch of money and buy a building, but the question then becomes, well, where is that funding coming to provide ongoing services for that? So that's a lot of communities in California are really trying to figure out, okay, it's great that we have this money, but there's a lot of hard conversations happening on the ground. The other thing that we've seen in the last couple of years, and credit to Walnut Creek for being one of the first cities, cities now are starting to put their own money towards addressing homelessness in the form of supporting core outreach teams. So Martinez Pleasant Hill, Concord Walnut Creek, now Richmond San Pablo are funding teams that are specifically designed to provide services just within their jurisdiction to make sure that their residents are getting access to the services that they need, and so that community members have a resource that they know that they can call on, that actually the police can't often do something. If somebody's homeless, it's not illegal to be homeless. So unless they're breaking a law, there's not really anything, the law enforcement's not really the right answer, so then what do you have? So cities are really starting to put their own funding towards homelessness in a way that I think is really making a difference and also really fostering collaboration.
And just to kind of follow up on that, I got another card in that is government-related questions, but an additional question to that. What can I do as a community member to address this with my congressman or my local politicians that would help all of you?
That's a great question. So November is Homeless Awareness Month, so it just passed. And so one of the things we do during that is we try and set up some meetings with state electeds and sometimes federal electeds, usually their staff. But one thing that I always say when I do community forums is that you all are advocates. You're all here, you're out, you're getting educated, you're getting informed. So definitely targeting your state and federal representatives, but also your county supervisors, your city council members, your neighbors, your people in your own faith communities, parents at your children's schools. Because what has to happen, and I've seen it happening, is that the conversation is starting to change. But writing letters and writing emails actually does make a difference. But I think also having conversations with people on Facebook, you can educate and inform people whenever these conversations are happening. I was just in Rochester, New York, and I had a conversation with a clerk at a Wegmans grocery store and was able to have a conversation about homelessness in California that because I knew enough and felt empowered enough to have that conversation, we were able to have a real conversation and I think change his perspective. Now, what does that mean? In California, not necessarily anything, but he's got relatives that live here, and maybe he's having a conversation with them, and they're voting in a certain way, or they're having conversations with electeds.
Okay, so as the official elected here, it does make a difference. I hearken back to when Trinity's winter night program was first before council, and it was a scary vote for us because a lot of people expressed a lot of fear and concern, and we heard everything from truth to if you build a ball field, they'll come. We'll have so many more homeless. I think that the success of the winter night program has gone a long way to teaching people that isn't the case. That we were probably going to have the same number of homeless because we're a safe city, an attractive city. Even if you're homeless, we were probably going to have the same number of people. But those people are finding ways out of homelessness, and they are not nearly the horde of scary people that people were afraid of. And it happened again, and the information went out on Nextdoor when the parking, what's the official safe parking program happened. We spent an extraordinary amount of effort just trying to dispel people's fears that if it was going to be even within a mile of their neighborhood, that their neighborhood was going to suffer and the whole quality of life in their area was going to go down. In fact, it's the exact opposite. So as a group, we as politicians need people who really understand what works and how we're improving. We need to hear from you as much as we hear from the people who have really fears, deep fears, and that makes our job a lot easier and gives us a chance to make better decisions.
I think that's a really wonderful question, and there are so many possible answers to it. One of the things, I've been working with this community now for 7 years. And I don't know if you all know, but we're working in partnership with the city and the county, St. Paul's Episcopal Church, and a nonprofit developer to build very affordable housing, and we will open, please, soon. It was supposed to be October. We're hoping for February, maybe before. But this was something that people told us we could not do here. We cannot have that kind of facility, if you want to call it that, but housing that is extremely affordable in our community because we are Walnut Creek. Well, Walnut Creek is also a very generous community and a very loving community. It's been my experience that when we went out into the community and people came in, we got more thank yous than we did opposition. This is what we need in our community. My children can't afford to live here. So one of the things that I would love the state legislators to hear is thank you for addressing this issue. Thank you for approving some of the money that's coming down, but you've got to streamline the process. We are it has taken us, we started last February trying to fill 14 units for homeless people. 1 year. And the process is huge, it's enormous, and it's so awful for people going through it. Hours and hours and hours our staff has worked, and Marjolie's staff has been phenomenal, but the applications can be 18 pages long. You have to have an original birth certificate, an original marriage certificate. You have to have 7 years rental history. These are people who are homeless, by the way. You cannot have evictions. You have to have a certain amount of income. So in my wonderful manner, I have asked the question, if these were not built, if these are not the people that are eligible for the units that are built for homeless and special needs, then you tell me who is. You tell me who is, and you tell me how to get them in there, because that's what our community needs. And we as a community need to, I think, this is my personal opinion, be supportive of all those nonprofit developers that want to build something like St. Paul's Commons in every community, because there are people that cannot afford more. And everyone that I've worked with people who have been homeless now for 7 years, and they're still homeless because they can't get in anywhere. You say, well, just get a job. How are they going to do that? Are they going to earn minimum wage? Where are you going to live on minimum wage? So, and there may be addictions. I'm glad that AOD is here tonight, because there are 3 things that have to happen. I'm going on a long time, but I'm passionate about this now. So there has to be more mental health facilities in our communities for people who suffer from mental illness and are homeless. They need to be inside and taken care of. And until we have those facilities in our cities, you are going to have people outside the library yelling and screaming, outside your favorite Starbucks. We need to have more alcohol and drug treatment facilities. So we need detox centers, recovery centers for people that need that are ready. They're ready for recovery. There's no place to go. Fatima, how many detox units do we have in the county?
We have 1 right now in the entire county, with only 10 beds.
10 beds. So we have 10 beds in the entire county. And one of the obstacles I've worked with, Fatima, she's wonderful, but she can't do anything. You know why? There's money. Because the community members say, no, I don't want that in my neighborhood. Well, okay, then you have people who have alcohol and drug problems in your parks and in your stores, in front of your stores, in your businesses, in your neighborhoods. So it's either inside taken care of or outside where you don't want to see it. So that's, and then we need, one more thing, more affordable housing. And what is affordable housing? It is housing that people are making who make $29,000 a year can afford. I'm not sure where that is. Actually, we've got 14 units. But if we keep saying no, not us, because we all say yes, but if we keep saying no as a people, to helping with these kinds of facilities and resources, then you will never see the change you want to see, ever. So unless we do something like that, where we can increase those kinds of facilities in every community, then we have what we have. Okay, I get off soapbox.
As stated, so many people are a paycheck away from being homeless, and some communities are making available small, short-term, interest-free loans to prevent this. Is Walnut Creek have a plan in place or talking about this?
I missed the question because I
Sorry.
was filling in the hole. Short-term loans for what?
As stated, in so many people a paycheck away from being homeless, and some communities are making available small, short-term, interest-free loans. Is Walnut Creek involved in anything like this, or exploring anything like this, or aware of anything like this?
Short-term interest-free loans to residents. So we don't have a program that provides that. There are homeless prevention services through some of the nonprofit organizations that can assist with providing like gap funding to cover rent for a month as a homeless prevention mechanism. I'm actually going to have Jamie talk a little bit about that because there are some criteria to qualify for it.
So there's a couple things. So prevention funds, first of all, there's not very much prevention funding available, but also providers are really directed to make sure that it's really a gap fill. So for example, if I lost my job and I was getting a new job, but it was going to be a month, and I knew that in a month I was going to have income, a prevention program would probably fund me for a month to cover my rent. But if I had lost my job and I had no prospects and I was already, $20,000 in debt and about to get evicted, the prevention program probably is not going to give me that money because it's essentially just going to go into a hole. All it's going to do is kick the can down the road. So it's very hard. There are folks that get in situations where they need more than just a little gap, and there's really not a whole lot available. The other thing I'll just mention is that we do have something now in our county called the Housing Security Fund. So that is something that individuals can contribute to. Again, email me and I'll send you the link. But it's essentially a flexible fund designed for people as they're trying to get back into housing. So we have housing navigators that are working to get people in. So it's covering things like credit checks and rental applications and some of those like just annoying but real big roadblocks. And then also we have a program called Rapid Resolution, which is for people that have fallen out of their housing, but they're not in a shelter. They maybe have a few options left. Sometimes there's some flexible funding. For example, if I could live with Michael, if I could kick in an extra $100 a month for groceries and he'd let me live there, that's the kind of thing where if it's a small patch, but that's all that's needed, then I would have stable housing. Funding can get used for that also. Those are available sort of through our system of care. You can't just like apply for it. But you're sort of hitting on this issue of there's not a lot of funding resources for people that are struggling financially sort of in perpetuity.
So I got a couple cards here from community members regarding the safe parking program and talking about its successes and how well it's going. Is there any talk about expanding this program, extending this program? Are there any discussions going on in that matter?
So we started in October. So we really only, we agreed that we would do a 5-month pilot and then we would evaluate the program. We still have openings in our program. So we know there's a need out there, but we believe that the reason we are not seeing very many people in the program is because of the restrictions that are on the program. You have to be there at 9, you can't leave until 6. Or you gotta leave at 6. And so it's very restrictive. It's 7 nights a week. It's also some other restrictions that are put on who is eligible for the program. So at this point, we're not seeing that it's at capacity, and so there's no plans to expand it. I think we have to relook at the program at the end of the 5 months. We need to evaluate it, why it's not utilized as much as we thought it would be utilized in our community. But as far as the people that are in it, they love it. So the ones that are in it, maybe they need to go out and do a little PR. It's safe. They have a place to use that they can use the restroom. They have become a community along with the security guard that is there every night. When we had the earthquake recently, the guard was there making sure everybody was okay, and they were so excited about it. And they tell us all of the time how wonderful this is, because now they can get some sleep. So we know there are people, we're just not sure, maybe we're not reaching them, they don't know about it. You want to say something about that?
Well, I would like to, well, we have some openings in this program, but I would like to highlight how big of a difference it can make for those participants, because I want to highlight one member that I have in mind, and we had some more successes with the program. But the one I would like to highlight out is a lady that she came into Trinity Center, and I wasn't sure, is there something mental health-wise going on or not? Or is it only surviving the streets and battling that constantly? And we were lucky with a donation of a car, and we thought that she was the right person to give that car to. And she is now in a car in our safe parking program. She has a job. She had a part-time job. She was applying for a full-time job. She got the full-time job. She is reconnected with her family again. And she is still living in her car. But if you see the people that we have in a safe parking program, and if you see the effect on those members in that program, then it's a huge, big difference for them. And I think that already makes it successful.
So, as you can imagine, I have a few cards on the law enforcement side of these issues, and I could put all 6 or 7 or 8 questions right out here in front. So, let me maybe read the questions and see if it can be kind of covered globally from that perspective. What is the policy on homelessness encampments and parking and public spaces and parks? Will the city enforce hours, rules, codes regarding these questions? What is the Walnut Creek Municipal Code regarding panhandling and similar and legal and illegal issues? How do our officers deal and work with the homeless in our community? And I'm sorry, I can't read this last one. So maybe just kind of a global view of the law enforcement side of the issues.
Yeah, so great questions. Those are always sort of the burning questions that the community has for the police department, and we address those pretty much on a daily basis. I'm glad it came up in the forum tonight so we could address it formally and get the word out. But so again, strategic approaches to homelessness and enforcing the law has changed over the last few years. So what it means is a police officer will go out, make an arrest for something, and it will go to the district attorney's office for charges, and charges won't be filed for whatever reason. And so this, we're talking about public intoxication. We're talking about camping. Trespassing is a big one. We talk about drug possession, other things that, crimes that surround the homeless community. And so what we have done as a police department is we've worked closely with the district attorney's office on some of the, prolific offenders out in our community, the ones that are daily getting arrested for being drunk in public. And we present those cases as a bulk to the DA's office, and then they file charges. And so what that does is it does a couple of things. It does one thing for us. It helps us keep the community safer, and also provides a mechanism for that person to get into services. So maybe they're ready to get into alcohol and drug treatment, but they can't. Or maybe they just don't know how to. And so the judicial system gets them into these programs and gets them sober, for 30 days, maybe 90 days. And it really kickstarts something that they probably couldn't have kickstarted before. So panhandling is always a big one. And is it illegal to panhandle and ask for money? No, it's not. And is it illegal to panhandle in an aggressive manner? Yes, it is. So panhandling is very sensitive, and we've seen changes in the laws in the last few years surrounding panhandling, specifically around the individuals that are holding signs and around freeway off-ramps and things like that, asking, not saying anything to you, or not what the law would say, accosting you. So it makes it legal. And so what the courts have said, this is now no longer a crime. And so now the police department has to look at a way to somehow enforce this by other means, by a municipal code or by another vehicle code. And so we're really exploring how to be creative with the law and dealing with the community issues. So we're just as concerned as you are as a police department for the public safety. It is our job, it's what you pay us for. So we're always looking creatively into that, and that's why we've dedicated 2 officers to deal with these situations. Officer Clemente and Officer Silva, they are the resident experts, or subject matter experts, if you will, for the police department in dealing with crimes surrounding homelessness, finding ways to use the law in the ways that it's intended to, either by the letter or by the spirit, and enforcing those laws. So encampments are another big thing. And another thing has evolved over the last few years, encampments under the bridges, and how do we prevent that, and who can we arrest for trespassing, and who can't we arrest for trespassing. I'm going to be quite frank with you. The courts are very sympathetic towards homeless individuals. And if there's case laws that have come out from other states that say if they can't sleep here, then where can they sleep? And so the community has to provide some sort of avenue, whether it be shelter, or whether it be through a treatment program, or whether it be through day services or a warming center, if you will, for someone to go. We just can't arrest them for sleeping somewhere when a person has no place to go. So that's another way we have to approach this. And underneath bridges and underneath overpasses, it's kind of a no-brainer. That's easy. But when we're talking about public sidewalks, we're talking about parks, we're talking about your neighborhoods, places where you may visit. So that's where we have to be creative with the law. And we're doing that. So it's huge expense for the city to clean up encampments. There's been some very elaborate encampments out there. Some with big screen TVs, some with large structures, very creative. I give you, we as humans, we're very creative when we want to provide a place to lay our heads at night. And so, I applaud them for the creativeness, but there's also the side of the community that says, hey, this is a problem. There's lots of trash. It's a biohazard, and human waste is being dumped. And I'm concerned for my safety. I'm concerned for the safety of my children as they pass by these places. So we have to look at it that way too. So that's where we work really with CORE, Mike Fisher's crew, and with Officer Silva and Officer Clemente. They really dive into these issues, encampments, and getting them places to go, storing property, places for them to be in services. So it's a very complex issue. And the police department is always on top of it and always trying to be creative with it. So I think I answered the question about panhandling and encampments, but is there another one?
No, you covered it.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah, please.
So I was certainly not an expert in any of this when I was first elected to City Council. And I've observed over the years that the police department has really gotten more in touch with the community, and that means the greater community, including the homeless. And I've talked to them, many of them, and they really are trying to find successful solutions to other than just arresting somebody and getting them out of somebody's face. And I congratulate them because HOP is a real giant step toward that goal. All the other collaboration that they're going through, and I don't think it's just even amongst the people in Walnut Creek. It is county-wide in terms of their trying to find a greater solution. they're doing it from their hearts, and I personally want to thank them for their efforts and their continuing service to all of us, and including the homeless.
And since we, Trinity Center, have moved from downtown Walnut Creek to Boulevard Way, which is actually not in the downtown jurisdiction, we've had the pleasure of working with the Sheriff's Department. And so Jen is here and Lieutenant Sleeger is here. We haven't met. I wish we had met a little bit earlier. Or if we did, I'm sorry, I don't remember. So we are very appreciative of the collaboration that's happening here, because with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department in Trinity, we're working with the homeless community that do have negative impacts on the community, because we're not going to lie to you, there are some people that do need a little intervention and a little guidance towards a different path. And so we try to do that, and we have been very blessed to have the HOP team and to have the officers that work with us and the deputies, because it means a lot. And if you see the sheriffs at our facility or the police department, it may not be a bad thing. It may be a good thing. We are together making a difference in our community.
Considering the temperatures that we're having right now, this is an appropriate question. If a member of the community observes a homeless person sleeping, outside in the areas or downtown or anything, what should they do that might be able to help?
All right, so we made this really easy. The best thing that you could do is call 211. So we have a core team that's in operation in the city of Walnut Creek and city of Concord, and we have core teams countywide. If you call 211, we'll send a core team out and we'll offer services. I did want to talk about some numbers. We served 183 people in Walnut Creek in 2019. Of those 183 that we made contact with, we actually were able to place 64% of those people in one of the warming centers at night. So the people that are freezing at night, we do have a place for them to go every single night. They will have a cot, a warm meal, a shower. They'll get all of that stuff. And we also were able to place about 32% in shelters. So when somebody hits one of our emergency shelters, they have 120 days and they have a place to go. So the main thing is get the professionals out there who can go out and build relationships, because that's the key for CORE. We go out and we talk to them like they're human beings. We treat them with respect. We deliver on everything that we say we're going to deliver on, because building trust is key. I can tell you that everybody that we talked to wasn't 5 years old and said, I'm going to be homeless one day. Right? These are decisions that have brought somebody to this homelessness. So our job is to work through those decisions with them and help them out of the mess that they're in. So, yeah.
So as we all know, many members of the homeless community are, sorry, did I miss something?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's you again. I'm going to need a job.
We actually have this connection. Yeah, it's here. I have one last thing to say about crime and homelessness in Walnut Creek. I want to say it sensitively, but if there is a homeless individual who is chronically committing crimes in Walnut Creek and being a nuisance, jeopardizing public safety, harming people, harming property, stealing, dealing drugs, or anything like that, the police department does our best to not make them welcome here. We try to coach them into services. Unfortunately, there are a few individuals who are resistant to services, as we call it. We offer the moon, the sun, everything to them, and they say, no, I'm fine, I don't want it. And then they go out and they steal, and then they go out and they hurt, and then they go out and they pillage and things like that. So please trust that your police department is working aggressively towards that, and that the officers that were assigned to our HOP teams are aware of those individuals. They know them by name, they know the backstory, they know everything there is to know about them, and they will work with them and they will work on them to make sure that they're no longer a public safety issue for you and for us. That's the last thing I have to say.
Sorry. As we know, many members of the homeless community are victims of mental illness or drug abuse or alcohol abuse or things that might put them out there that might be out of their control. What type of programs are available or resources are available, or what can we do as a community to help fix those issues, if the word fix is even correct?
Hi, I'm Natalie Demichin. I'm with the Mobile Crisis Response Team. And I just wanted to mention that our program partners with Michael Fisher's program, the CORE team. So if you do call the CORE team, oftentimes CORE will reach out to the Mobile Crisis Response Team, and we can go out and respond to individuals in the community who might be experiencing a mental health crisis. So what that might look like is someone who is presenting as a danger to himself or herself or others, or presenting as gravely disabled. And our program goal is to really try to de-escalate the situation in the community. Our clinician is able to write and initiate a psychiatric hold of 5150, and we also work in partnership with the local law enforcement. So we are one entryway into getting individuals services they might need with mental health, and we make every effort to try to get individuals who may have been receiving mental health services, helping them get reestablished back to their mental health provider, or helping them establish mental health services.
Good evening. My name is Fatima, and thank you so much for inviting us. And it really feels good to know that there is a large community that is interested in resolving this problem with us. I think somebody in the panel said that not what one single entity alone is going to resolve this issue, which is not a little issue. It's a large issue. What I do is we are responsible for the provision and monitoring of alcohol and drug services in the community, and that ranges from the Richmond area in West County all the way to Byron in East County, so it's a large territory that we have to cover. Contra Costa has done a lot over the last 3 years to improve the availability of services for people who need our services. I do want to say that addiction doesn't discriminate faith, socioeconomics, gender, age. So this is not an issue that only impacts homeless individuals. A lot of our problems in Walnut Creek area is not necessarily homelessness within alcohol and drugs. It's the number of bars you have in downtown, and how many people that have to be picked up there because they're intoxicated. And these may be people who don't need treatment. They maybe had a little bit too much to drink and need a safe place to sober up. And what I want to frame is that addiction is a wide continuum in which addiction is kind of like the final step. But there are many entry points. There are many state of beings that people can experience. Use, abuse, dependency into addiction and having a disease. I also want to mention that anybody can be impacted by addiction. And I have been in many communities over the last 10 months, really, throughout the county, and it's really, it's compelling to see who is impacted by addiction. There are many things that all of you and I can do every morning. I can get up, I can take a shower, brush my teeth, make my coffee, dress up, and get ready to go to work. What I'm trying to say is that people with addiction have a disease. It's a disease that includes relapses and remission. There's a lot of high functioning people who have addiction, and they are holding very nice jobs, but you wouldn't know. Because of that, our system has been set up in a way that can meet the needs of individuals according to that range that exists. On the table there, I have placed information, and I do want to work with the police department. And I think it was the police department that mentioned that there are very little opportunities right now within the court system and criminal justice to encourage people to divert into treatment. So 10 years ago, there was that ability for the court system to offer treatment instead of incarceration. So California, which is a great state, has softened a lot of the laws, and there's very little opportunity now to engage somebody in the court. Our DUI programs, and DUI is driving under the influence, have very little people, very few people going into education for alcohol and drugs because there is not that leverage anymore from criminal justice. And the resources are there. In fact, Contra Costa was the 4th county in the state that opted into what's called the drug medical waiver. That's because we wanted to expand treatment. We wanted to make sure that when you're ready to go to treatment, that we open the doors for you. Because being ready for treatment is not something that happens overnight. It takes time. And we cannot force people to go to treatment. But when they say, I want to go to treatment, we want to be ready to hit the ground immediately. Our average time for admission into treatment is 5 days right now. And we've come a long time from having people to be admitted for 30 days, for 90 days. So our system is ready. But we have to understand that people also have to be ready to go to treatment. So from that end, we do have people in the courts. We're doing screenings in the courts. We're doing screenings at the shelters. We collaborate with Michael, with the court team, with the Met team. When somebody is ready to go to treatment, we're ready to transport and transfer them in, and do an admission. We don't have a lot of detoxification services. You already heard me. We have 1 location in the entire county. We're getting ready to open a facility in Richmond. It's going to have 25 beds. 12 of those are detoxification. But when you think about the distance of transporting somebody from here to Richmond, by the time somebody gets there, they probably change their mind. The best way to address this is to have locations throughout the community so that when people are ready to go into treatment, we can place them into treatment. I have materials on the table. It's very easy to enter treatment. You only call a 1-800 number. It's free. We have cards. We have services in English and Spanish. And we also just opened a new service, which is engagement groups. I did say that many people have to get ready to go to treatment, but many people don't even know what treatment looks like. So we have opened multiple groups and in places in the community where they can just show up and just to check us in. We have counselors that will be ready to do intakes on the spot.
Anything, Lieutenant? Walnut Creek declared homelessness crisis to qualify for state funding. How much funding have we received, and how are the funds being used?
So the whole county received about $7.2 million. It's called HEAP, the Homeless Emergency Aid Program, which was a state funding. And I can't tell you the exact breakdown, but there was actually a community. So that information is, again, on our website. It's going to be my tagline. It's on our website. But there was a community process that was involved to determine how it was going to get split out. So there's some that specifically set aside for youth funding. There's some that was going to expand our warming centers and the hours and days for the care center for core teams to help cover that. There was some funding to make some of the facilities pet friendly because that can be a real barrier for people. I'm trying to remember. I don't have all the specifics, but that gives you kind of the basic breakdown. And there's more details available on our website. But there's another couple more buckets of state funding that's coming down, and there's information on the web sort of about what the community input has been and then how the Council on Homelessness decided it should get allocated.
Why don't local agencies advocate for a state or federal comprehensive mental health care system? More local programs are not really doing the trick.
If I may add, the state right now has embarked in a large initiative. A lot of the public system operates on medical dollars. And right now the state has an initiative called CalAIMS. And what they're trying to do is innovate the way medical dollars come to communities and how it's used. One of their goals is also to streamline processes for providers to deliver services and to expand services, to do a better pay in reimbursement so that we can opt into more services. And there's more providers that want to do the work for us, and that would allow us to make it more available. In doing that, one of their goals is also to further integrate substance use and mental health. I do want to clarify that there are many people who have a substance use disorder, but they don't necessarily have mental health needs, and vice versa. And then there's a population in the middle that has both. That's a co-occurring population. And the state wants to make sure that there's more availability of funding and that medical is easier to be used and accepted by local government so that we can expand and make it available. I don't know that that necessarily answers the question, but it's something that our office is right now engaged in many counties in the state. So more to follow.
Is there any collaboration with the hospitals in the community or medical facilities in the community to deal with some of the homeless patients?
Sure. So, this actually I'll punt to Michael in a minute. So we have a county hospital in Martinez and then a number of clinics, but there's also John Muir. We have Sutter Delta in Antioch, and we've had increasingly stronger relationships with the hospitals, in part because a state law changed, I want to say last year, that essentially says that hospitals can't just kick people out on the street if they're homeless and they have no place to go, because there were instances of people, in their Johnny at the bus stop. So hospitals are really scrambling to figure out, this is again, I always say homelessness is the most complicated issue I've ever worked on because it touches so many different issues and systems. So law enforcement is getting asked to do social work, and hospitals are getting asked to do housing. And so we're really trying to figure out partnerships. And so I wanted to punt to Michael. CORE has really been integral sort of in some of that partnership.
So some of the ways that we're partnering is we're receiving funding from Sutter Delta Medical Center. We're receiving some funding from John Muir. We're receiving funding from Kaiser. And they're actually funding out of their community funds some of our core teams that are operating countywide. We receive 20 to 30 phone calls probably per day from medical social workers at these hospitals. We're constantly collaborating with them. And then we have what Jamie was mentioning, SB 1152, which requires that somebody be offered homeless services before they're discharged from the hospital. Now, if there's no homeless service available for them at that time, then they're able to discharge. SB 1152 also requires that somebody receive a warm meal, some clothes before they're discharged, potentially some rest. And so that the answer is yes, we are collaborating with them on multiple levels. And we continue that collaboration, and we're also going to try to strengthen that in the coming year.
Trinity Center also collaborates with some of the hospitals. For example, we work closely together with Kaiser. Kaiser does have a behavioral health group that is coming over to Trinity Center twice a month. Once a month to consult the staff. We do case consultation. If we have difficulties with a specific member, they guide us in how we can help that member best. But they also doing once a month a consultation with our members. They're at this moment, they are focused on mindfulness. Can you imagine that you're on the street, you're carrying your stuff constantly? You also have to think about, oh, how do I recover from this situation? How do I get somewhere else in my life? That mindfulness with the Kaiser Behavioral Health Group is really helping them with, well, finding some peace and rest in the difficult situation where they are in. So I really like that collaboration, of course. And John Muir is coming over every Thursday with primary care physicians. They are there to see our members because sometimes the step to go to a doctor is difficult. Not only transport, but also sometimes shame. And there are so many different things that are involved. And when the physician is on site, the step towards a physician is way easier. So they connect with the doctors, they guide them, they give directions that will guide them to the right direction. So I think, those collaborations are nice. As well, if there is a homeless person in one of the hospitals and the case managers always call to Trinity Center. Well, we have this member in the hospital. Is it a Trinity Center member? Can we send a cab for them towards Trinity Center? Are they welcome at Trinity Center? So those lines are pretty short. Thank you.
I forgot to mention, we go out twice per week with healthcare for the homeless. So a lot of people will not come inside for their medical care. They're just existing in encampments and they have wounds on their legs, maybe diabetes untreated, maybe have substance use disorders. We go into the encampments with a medical team, a psychiatrist, a nurse, and we can provide anything from ultrasound to minor surgery right there out in the field.
Can you talk about the shelter availability? How many beds, where they're located, are they safe? Do people at the warming center have to sit in chairs all night? The environment that they are in?
Sure. So in the Concord facility, Concord shelter, we have 76 beds. At the Brookside shelter in Richmond, we have 89 beds. We have 30 emergency cots at the Central County Warming Center. So they're not having to sit up every night. They're actually able to lay down. Now, what you may be referring to is when we first opened the warming center, there wasn't emergency cots. It wasn't zoned for it. So now we are, and we have a place for people to lay down. And then at GRIP in Richmond, at Greater Richmond Interfaith Program, there's also 30 emergency cots. Then, so those are the facilities that we're really working closely with. And then Bay Area Rescue Mission has 200 plus beds in Richmond. And then there's multiple family shelters throughout Contra Costa County.
Just to reiterate, so for single adults, we have about 28% of the capacity we need, and for families, I think we're at like 60-something%. So that means everybody else is unsheltered. And also Trinity Center has a shelter. So there's some that are run by the county that Michael was referencing, and then some that are run by nonprofits. It's a mix.
Yes, Trinity Center has our evening program, and we already talked about it shortly. But we have 38 beds available for Trinity Center members at the Armory in Walnut Creek downtown. And besides those 38 beds, we have 12 emergency beds. And people can come in through the core team, so they again can call 211. And the emergency 12 beds are for extreme weather, so when the weather is below 30 degrees or below 40 degrees and raining. And then we have those 12 extra beds as well. The 38 beds that we are having are for Trinity Center members, so we guide them towards their placement in the evening program. We work with them on an agreement. We try to work with them. With the case managers, try to work with our members. So if they enroll in this program, they're basically also agreeing with, okay, I'm working with the case manager towards some goals, maybe increasing some income, maybe reconnect with family. Those first steps, and those first steps can be really small. It can start with getting my ID card again, but that's the first step for some of them to get this ball rolling, to hope to make a change in their life. So that's basically what they're agreeing if they're getting into our evening program.
This may have been touched on and I may have missed it. Is there a job placement program for homeless people?
There are a number of different agencies that are doing employment services. So Rubicon is a big one. But for service providers, do you have specific programs that you refer to?
So at Trinity, we don't specifically have a job placement program, but if someone says that they're looking for a job, what we do have are volunteers and case managers that will work with that client to make sure that they have all the documentation they need when they're applying, to help them do resumes, help them role play for interviews, especially phone interviews, providing the ability to get their mail where we are, because what if you apply for a job and they send you a letter and you have no address? So you have to have an address to get a job. So we provide that service for them. So we work more in a collaborative manner with the client, but it really is the work that they do, and we just support that.
I have a couple questions on the program that was mentioned through Las Lomas High School, the federal funding. Is that available in all? Did I cut somebody else off? I'm in the wrong spot. They got to move me in front of you. I do. I need to be like Phil Donahue. Is that program available, and do you know of any way to access it, or?
The McKinney-Vento
Yes.
is in fact a federal program, so it's available in every high school in America. That gives you access to a base level of services, so things like the free and reduced lunch and breakfast at school, usually access to the sporting events, the dances, stuff like that. Our district, because we are a district of significant means, will go above and beyond what the sort of bare requirements are. We actually, something I forgot to mention is we have an arrangement with, I believe, AT&T, that if the student doesn't have internet in the house, the district will pay for them to get internet access in whatever their living situation is. So, yeah, the McKinney-Vento Act is sort of universal across every high school, but I do think that the level of services that you'll have access to is dependent on the means of the district.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Would a campaign to train residents how to not deal with panhandling, or our business community to not hand out food to some of these community members, would there be a benefit to have some more education on that for our community and figure out the best way to kind of lead those programs along so that the homeless population can go a different direction?
So there's, so I know that the police department has information and education programs about that. In Trinity, what we suggest to people is they do not give money to people who are panhandling. There are, if someone's hungry, there are food programs. If someone needs a shower, there's a shower program. If someone needs clothing, there's ability to get that. And if they need other kinds of help. So money is not the answer, and we discourage it greatly. But I know in part of the task force effort, there you are, Lisa. Maybe Lisa needs to come up here and talk about the education program, because yes, I think it's important to educate the community about panhandling, what it is and what it is not. It can be sometimes a very lucrative business for people, and those people probably have a nicer car than I do. So. But I guess that's not saying much. Anyway, so panhandling is not really have to do with homeless. There are homeless that do fly signs, but there's a big difference. They're usually on the freeway, and it's usually until they get enough money to get a meal, or to get inside, or to get their dog some food. So it's kind of, panhandling is a little bit, general panhandling is a little bit different. Address what you do.
Yeah, Donna said it so eloquently. I really don't have much to add to that. I do. The police department does support that position. We do encourage community members not to give money. If you want to help, I know there's sometimes it's just in your heart to help, and gosh, I don't have any food with me. I don't have a drink. I don't have anything, but I have money. Here you go. I get that. We get that as a police department. It necessarily doesn't help them. What helps them is, do you need a ride somewhere? Do you how can I get you to where you need to be? What is it you need? And then calling 211 and kind of going from there. We have flyers out there that it's not good to give money, just offer services. And Trinity Center provides a great service to our community. They have everything that any individual would need. Point them in that direction and go from there, but don't give money.
And fill your pockets with resource cards.
Yeah,
Visit the table, pick up the resource cards. I was walking in the Civic Park, and there was a woman sitting in her car, and it was clear to me that she was sleeping in there, and she was crying, and she was on the phone. And I started to walk by, and I said, why am I just walking by? So I walked up, and I said, I'm sorry. You look like you're in pain. Are you living in your car? And she said, yes. And I said, well, here's my card. This is a place where you can go for help. Please come, no questions asked. She looked at me and said, oh my gosh, thank you. So sometimes it's just that. Have some information that you carry with you instead of money.
How does Walnut Creek compare to other Bay Area suburb communities with respect to per capita homelessness numbers, resources for the homeless community, any special issues? And kind of a piggyback to that from another community member, a prosecutor stated there's been 88% increase in Contra Costa senior homelessness. What is being done in the county to address that issue, if that number is correct even?
So there's this giant mythology out there, and I sat next to a city council member from another community who I will not name, who claimed they had only 7 homeless, and 2 of them had died, and so now they were down to 5. And I just had to look at her as if to say, no, I think you just haven't found them yet. They're still there. I think you have the statistics about how they are comparing. I think some communities have bolder homeless than others, meaning that they show up more, and some of them are better at hiding. But I believe every community in this area has a significant number.
Yeah, that data is actually available, again, on the website. But so we have city level data from our point in time count for every city in Contra Costa. I'm not sure that like neighboring communities will have that same sort of information, but I'd say like comparable cities are like Martinez, Pleasant Hill. You can kind of look at those. Related to the issue of older adults, so I don't know if anybody's heard the term silver tsunami. So if we look at like the demographic trends in our community, older adults are a very large part now of our population. So part of what's happening is just that there are more people that are older adults. Therefore, there are more people that are homeless that are older adults. But also there is this issue about sort of a lack of resource or inability to sort of make up the gap. So there's nothing specifically targeted happening around older adults. We do partner with older adult mental health and senior services. And I mean, I think everybody around the state, this is not just a Contra Costa trend, this is a trend nationwide. And I think people are really grappling with what to do with this. I mean, Michael comes from our shelter system, and I think, you've said, if you look at our shelters right now, they really look like nursing homes. It's really the oldest. We've had to prioritize beds for the most vulnerable, who generally are older adults that often have multiple health issues and mobility issues and sometimes dementia. It's really complicated. So one of the things we've done as a community is prioritize getting older adults into the few shelter beds that are available. But this is a demographic issue, but also a bigger sort of social issue around distribution of resources, frankly.
Maybe touching on some good things here, can you talk a little bit about any of the success stories that some of you have encountered over the years or recently, or anything that might show, the positive side of how this task force is working to, help this community?
Yes, well, of course we have success stories. One I already talked about is the lady with the car. We have, together with, all those organizations basically that are sitting here, we helped some of our members to become housed. one member, she came in on a daily basis with her little dog, and well, we found her housing together with the core team. And she is still coming in at Trinity Center because she was at Trinity Center every day. And that's where her friends are now. And we encourage her to find something else besides Trinity Center now, because she is housed. And she, well, her dog looks great. She looks great. She walks in every day with a big, well, not every day anymore, sorry. She walks in now once in a while with a big smile. And that's the transition of homeless into housing is also a really big one that we cannot forget. But that was one success story. We helped several people into detox facilities and towards substance use treatment facilities. Sometimes it's difficult because you have an issue with the member and you're on the edge of, do we suspend this person, or can we still handle this or not? And then one really, I think it's a beautiful success story. We had to suspend that person for, well, quite some time, but that day he decided, well, maybe it's getting bad. Maybe I do have to get into a treatment facility. And at that day, he made the decision, okay, I cannot get into Trinity Center for the next 6 months. Maybe I have to do something about my situation. And of course, if someone makes a choice like that, and Fatima just talked about it, if someone makes that decision, you have to respond immediately, because they can change their mind in a couple hours. So we helped him getting into detox and then getting into a treatment facility. And now he walked in, 3 weeks ago or so again, and he was welcome back again because it was after the 6 months, and he is clean, and he's looking into housing, and he's looking into jobs, and yeah, well, love those success stories. I have more success stories. I can fill up like the whole evening, but well, you guys are always welcome to Trinity Center if you would like to see what we're doing. We're always happy to give you a tour, to show you what we're doing. Of course, do not come in, hundreds at a time, but we are more than happy to show you around and, introduce you to our members as well.
I haven't had a chance to talk yet, so I think Creek Kids Care doesn't have an actual success story of getting somebody housed, but I think one of the things that we do really well is we create a connection. And we do this through many different ways, but the Angel Project that we do every year is, as I mentioned earlier, it's my favorite day of the year. And you have kids that come in and sit with the Trinity Center members, find out what they need, and then we find people to fulfill those needs. And those needs, they're not asking for cars or houses or anything like that. They're asking for jackets or mittens or hand warmers, things like that. But what the connection that I am talking about is that all of a sudden, when we bring in all of those presents, and you should see the pictures, I mean, just huge amounts, you have people at Trinity Center who are like, oh, there's somebody out there that I don't know that cares about me, that took the time to look at my list and shop for me and maybe write a note or maybe bake some cookies, something like that. So I think, what Marialine was talking about, those are huge success stories, but I think we should also remember the connection that we can maintain and expanding, our education and our understanding of, people who live in the same community as us.
I was thinking about this one that we were working in collaboration with Trinity with. He was a homeless veteran, and he became homeless after his son passed away. So his son passed away, he started drinking, and he lost his job, he lost everything. And so he stayed in this deep depression for multiple years. And we continued talking with him to see if we could get him out of this depression. He started attending outpatient treatment at Trinity Center, and he decided that he wanted to work. So we worked in collaboration with Trinity. He got a job, and we helped him with all his documentation gathering. And we actually placed him in a homeless service site for veterans, where he now pays 30% of his income. He's successfully employed, and he's a successful member of society. So it's those are the success stories. Those are the miracles of the people that we work with.
Can I add something? I like to say that you have a real diamond here in the community with Trinity Center. Michael just mentioned
We
outpatient
paid her to
treatment.
say that.
One of the things we talked about with Donna about 2 years ago was the ability to place a substance abuse counselor at Trinity for people who spend the day. We didn't have any money to do that. Somehow, somewhat, they found a way. And like 2 weeks after she came back, because the plan was to make them a drug medical facility, because everybody in that facility is eligible for medical. The difference is that a lot of the people who come to Trinity are not necessarily ready to go to treatment. So medical is not going to pay for it. So I do want to applaud Donna and her team because they came up with a counselor that really talks to the clients at the level that they need to be talked to. Somebody who understands what that situation is, somebody who has walked that walk. And that's one of the clients that they have been able to engage. And so it's about building that relationship. It's about telling them, hey, I was like that one at some point in my life. But let me tell you that recovery does happen. Those miracles do occur. And when they're saying they send the client to treatment, now the client is ready to move another step into the continuum. And then the client can come back and it's not going to use immediately because now they have some tools under their belt. So any support that you can give to Trinity along those lines is a very useful support because you know somebody is learning an additional skill to stay clean and sober and to become a productive member in the community.
Thank you. And by the way, speaking of collaboration, Fatima spent months with our member advocate team, our counselors, our case managers, in helping them understand how to talk to people and help them become ready. So thank you too. So there's lots and lots of success stories. There's heartbreak too. When you work with someone for several years and they have a relapse. But at Trinity, and I know at all of the other agencies, every single day is a new day, and every single day we try again. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And so what we ask is that the community support us, all of our agencies, all of the efforts to help people who have live in this type of situation, and to try to be respectful and patient and understanding. And so I'm so pleased with everybody that I've worked with. It's an amazing, amazing support system. Thank you. Oh yeah, and that's drug crisis counselor sitting in the back of the room back there. He's being very quiet.
This card states that there are care centers in Richmond, Concord, and Walnut Creek. What about East County?
Yes, East County. So we've been talking for a number of years about redeploying a care center in East County. So we had one, and actually there were too many people for the capacity of that space, and so there became safety issues. So the city decided, in collaboration with the county, that it needed to close. And we've been working on getting a new care center in East County for almost my entire tenure here, probably 3-4 years. The good news is we do have funding, we do have a commitment from the city, and we do have land. The challenge is we actually have to build something from the ground up. Ironically, when we found a couple of different buildings, but we kept getting outbid by cannabis because we're zoned for the same areas. So we have had a big struggle. So things are moving very slowly. There will be a care center in East County. But that's part of what's been really great about CORE is that there are mobile resources for people. There aren't a lot of brick and mortar facilities in East County. So a lot of folks from East County, I think, end up coming to Concord and then going back to East County.
So there's a couple cards here talking about the task force in general. And so maybe we could address how can someone participate, join. One of the cards makes comments that we need maybe some more diversity on the task force, and maybe the meeting times more convenient for people that do have in jobs during the day and things like that would like to be involved. So is there somebody that could address those issues as the conclusion of our evening?
Good question. The task force does meet once a month. It meets at the City Hall on the in the third floor conference room. It's the first Wednesday of the month, generally, unless otherwise posted. And it is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so that's the part about maybe it could be at a more convenient time for people who are working. So for those who want to be part of it, who are working, that's difficult for the staff that is working during the day. So what we might do, and we've discussed it as a team, is to be able to have at least one meeting in the evening per quarter, or perhaps having a subgroup that meets in the evening that hooks up with the day, whatever, as long as we're pulling people together. It's a very simple process to join. Show up. And bring someone with you, and bring an open mind, and bring ideas, because we're searching for ideas. The safe parking program was born out of the task force. We talked about it for maybe 4 years, having a place where you can park your car, because here's what happens if you have no place to park your car. You park on the street, and someone in the neighborhood complains. They call the police come out, and the first thing they do is check license, registration, insurance. One of those, multiple of those are maybe missing. The car gets impounded, and guess now what? That person's homeless. They're so embarrassed. They don't know where to turn. They don't have the money to get their car back. And if they come to Trinity, they don't tell us for weeks on end, and now it costs thousands to get the car out and pay all the fines. And we just don't have the funds to do that. So the safe parking program helps people in that where they have a safe place, but we also help them get their cars street legal. There's money for making sure that they have their driver's license is valid, they have registration, and they have insurance. So should they get stopped, at least all of those things will not contribute to the situation. So the task force, one of the things that we were also looking to do, it's another project. We're looking at the task force, yes, we're looking for long-term projects, but we're also looking for 30, 90, 120-day projects, and that was how the safe parking program was born. Another project that we were looking at was storage, mobile storage units. And actually one of our past employees came up with this idea where instead of finding a place to put storage units for people to store their belongings in, we would put storage units on a truck, make it mobile, and we would drive it to Trinity and another care center and the warming center or wherever, and people could put their stuff in there, and then we would drive it away, and then they'd bring it back. And what would that do? It would remove a lot of the things that you see in the streets and the parks that you don't like to see. That looks like trash to you. It's personal belongings to someone else. So we're looking for innovative ideas, and we're looking for ways to implement them, and we're looking for ways to work with the police and the city leaders. So and we're really fun. We have the hospitals with us, Kaiser, John Muir. We have county representatives. We have, every time that we meet, there's somebody new there that brings another perspective and brings another idea. And that's how programs are formed. It's the idea, and somebody else says, well, what if we did it this way? Well, no, what if we did it that way? And pretty soon you find a viable solution. So you got ideas, you want to help. And it doesn't have to be, there's a gentleman sitting over there that helped us with safe parking program. And he's not involved with us right now. He didn't have to spend years of his life doing it. He spent several months with us trying to come up with a safe parking program and was very helpful doing it.
I will say, coming to the task force meetings, it's never boring. I would have to say one of my favorite parts of the task force meetings, and it's not every meeting, but we do hear success stories from time to time from the core team and from other members, and it always feels really good. There's a lot of collaboration, and it's nice. It feels really good to collaborate and do stuff for your community where you live and make a difference. And I know somebody else earlier talked about the ripple effect, and I think that that is huge. You know, you throw a pebble in a pond and it ripples out, and it sounds like, you know, collaboration is what is the solution to homelessness. Not one entity is going to fix the problem. So we all have to work together. And so that's where locally you can do that by coming to the task force meetings. You don't have to come every month. You can come a lot, you can come a little. You get to have a voice. I went to a task force meeting, I think the first time a little over a year ago, and I'm just in awe every time I go, what I learn about the community, what I learn about the people that are trying to help within the community, and I love going. So even though it's really hard sometimes to hear some of the sad stories, and sometimes the problems feel so big, but I always go back to that little pebble and the ripple effect. So I invite you to come. And I want to thank everybody for coming tonight and being part of this. A special thank you to Matt Bolander and Walnut Creek TV for recording this, which will be available to Walnut Creek TV and through YouTube. So thank you all, and hope to see you all at a task force meeting or in the community.